Hey, Doug Waechter, what's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. How are you? So funny story real quick. I would have been in here a little sooner, but like I told you, it was my only time to go for a little run. So I was going to go for a run and then I was going to come back to the car. Everything was going to be on time. So what I do is my little trick on the run, and if anybody sees me out there, don't don't follow up on this. But I don't have my keys with me. I put my keys in my gas cap. I always just hide them in there, and it's no
Yeah,
big deal. And I didn't think anything of them. So I go out. It's my wife's car. I put the keys in the gas cap. I go for the run. I come back, try to open the gas cap, and it automatically locks when you don't. Like something happened to where I was locked out of the car. And so essentially, I've been calling my wife for the last 15 minutes trying to get her to remotely unlock the car so I can get back in here. So sorry I'm late. Long
no,
story
you're
short,
fine.
sorry I'm late, man.
No, you're fine, brother. You're fine. We were just talking to Martin Gramatica, and with Martin, it's funny because both of his sons are now going to USF. One's already there, Nico, and G's going to go there after next year. And his daughter is a phenomenal athlete too. But we were just talking about being a dad and being a former professional athlete, and giving them every resource that they need so that they can achieve their dreams, but also not pushing them. And we've spoke about this a lot with Caden and what he's been able to do. And, unfortunately, Jesuit, listen, one of the 5 Tampa teams that lost in the in the Final Four.
Right.
But what was it like to be able to see him kind of this year and the battle back from the injury and to be able to contribute to, one of the best teams around in the Jesuit Tigers?
Yeah, first of all, being a dad, the first thing you got to do is sport right here,
Dad bod. Yeah,
shirt.
buddy.
Because it's true, man. You that physique that you had before having kids, you don't have the time to keep it up. But all joking aside, I had a blast watching them. The pride you get in watching your kids play sports, both my son and my daughter. It's just so much fun, and I really appreciate the fact that they're playing on their own. Like they're not playing, or at least they tell me they're not playing because I played or because they're trying to make sure, my wife and I are proud of them. They know it has nothing to do with us. They know it's more about them, their passion for the sport, their desires to reach a certain goal within that sport. And it's great. It's great to be able to watch them grow. And you blink in the blink of an eye, they go from 8U baseball to high school juniors, and you're chasing them down, watching them try to run down state titles. So it's been fantastic. Caden specifically, the Jesuit, we feel very blessed that he's a part of that community, both on the field and off the field. Honestly, can't say enough good things about that place. We feel it's a perfect spot for him, and he's growing in, as a man, he's growing in his faith, he's growing all across the board. And then on the baseball side of things, Miguel Menendez runs such a great program. Every year they seem to be in it. They have a lot of talent every single year. I think the seniors class, they have 11 kids signed to go play next year in college. And, our incoming senior class, which is my son's grade, they're going to be just as strong. And, we shouldn't miss a beat. So it just speaks to the strength of the program there and what they're about. But yeah, it's a very proud moment for me as a dad and my wife, Kristen, as a mom.
Yeah, I love just being around there. And every time I go to Jesuit, I feel like I'm at home. I mean, knowing a guy like Miguel for as long as I have, I coached against Miguel back when I was at Freedom and he was down in Key West. And, knowing Louis Martinez for almost 20 years too, my coaching. And, I'm actually going to probably get back out on the field this summer, Dougie. So, and do some more coaching, man, now that my schedule's opened up. I miss it, man. I mean, be able to impact and, seeing a guy like Brendan Rodgers is getting the start today for the Astros. Like I coached against B-Rod, 15 years ago. Somebody called Doug. This is what happened yesterday with Alexa. I don't know. This is the problem with the StreamYard thing is when somebody's on their phone and somebody calls, even if you decline the call, when they try to bring you back, like it doesn't come back. You have to like go out and go back in again. So it's weird too, right? You would think like if you just ignored the phone call, everything would be okay. So we'll hang out with Doug. Maybe when the phone call leaves, he's off and on and off. I don't know if it's the video that gets jacked up from it. He left. He'll be back in a second. But yeah, it's almost like you have to put on the do not disturb thing and just got to get out and get back in. I'm actually going to reach out to the StreamYard people and see if that's something that they can rectify, because it happens too many times, not just for Doug. Don't worry, Doug. Was it a spam call?
Yeah, it was. Is that what happened?
It happened yesterday at the same time.
I've never had that happen before. All of a sudden you're talking, I can see you talk, and my screen goes blank. I'm like, what is going on here? This is, one of the 70,000 spam calls I get a day. It's awesome.
I know, I'm with you. But like I was saying, Brendan Rodgers is the guy I coached freaking 15 years ago and was like, oh, this kid's going to be good. Then he goes to the Rockies now with the Astros. So yeah, man, I feel like I got to get back out there, man, because there's just nothing like being able. I mean, I coach against Kyle Tucker. I coach against, rest in peace, Jose Fernandez. And just to be able to see the kids grow up, and you see it too. I mean, in the Bay Area, Clearwater, St. Pete, Tampa, and you just know, even going back from when you were growing up, there's so much talent here locally. And it's just wild, because you'll go and you'll see a guy, and then 15 years later, he'll play in the big leagues. And you're like, holy smokes, I remember that kid when he was. I mean, that doesn't happen everywhere, Doug.
No, it doesn't. It's and getting to travel around and watching what Caden's been doing and playing in some of these tournaments, seeing the skill level of some of these kids, it's incredible how good they are at such a young age. But you also see where a lot of the talent is kind of bunched up in certain areas of the nation. Florida is always, and the Southeast in general. Georgia has some good talent. Right. I'm not taking anything away from them. Texas has great talent. California is usually pretty stacked up. But I'll tell you, man, Florida, Tampa specifically, they always seem to have talent. And then I'm talking about the Tampa Bay area, not just Tampa, but it's incredible. And, nationally, it ranks up there with some of the best. And a lot of times you go to these national tournaments and you see how good some of the elite teams are, and you're like, oh man, we didn't know they were that good. Well, no, I mean, look, Florida has that kind of talent in it, and it's special for sure. And, you as a coach, you've seen a lot of it come through. And I will tell you, man, when sports are in your blood and when coaching's in your blood, you just can't get rid of it. And me personally, if I wasn't doing what I've been doing with the Rays broadcast side of things, I'd be on the field somewhere at some capacity. Just helping out or doing something, because I just couldn't give it up.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody tried to hand me a fungo the other day, and I was like, I can't. And they're like, why? I was like, because then I can't put a fungo down. Because that was the guy. I don't know if I ever told you this. So years ago, I was at Freedom High School, and our rival was Wharton High School, because they're both on Bruce B. Downs up there in New Tampa. And I was hitting IO after Wade Boggs. Wade Boggs, the guy that I grew up watching, 3,000 hits himself, Mr. Chicken Man himself. And I said to myself, how the hell am I going to hit IO better than Wade Boggs? And I go, it comes down to one thing. It comes down to the pop-up at the end of IO that you hit to the catcher. You're either going to hit it to the catcher, because it's not easy. For those that have ever tried it, it is not easy to hit a pop-up, even if you do it every day. I see people that hit IO all the time, and they still, at times, struggle hitting that pop-up to the catcher. Because you got to you throw the ball slightly behind you and hit it straight up in the air. So Wade does his thing. He looks polished. He looks like $1 million. Here comes the pop up to the catcher, and he hits a freaking fly ball to center field and just walks right off the field. He's not going to try again. He just walks off. I run out to the field. I am so excited. I'm like, I have a chance. Comes all the way around. Flawless IO. I hit a pop up. It goes between the pitcher's mound and home plate. My catcher runs out, slides, catches the ball. I run off the field. I was like, I hit a better IO than Wade Boggs. I could have retired right there. It was so much fun. And to this day, every time I see Wade, I bring it up to him, and he'll lie and say that he remembers it, because it was nothing to him, but to me, it was everything.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just incredible. Looking at this Rays team, I look at, and we'll start with the pitchers. I mean, a guy like Ryan Pepio, hard luck the other night. I feel like he was just a touch off. Drew Rasmussen's been really throwing the ball well, but I don't think that the guys have been as crisp this year early on. Does that have to do with being outside? It's just kind of normal having some issues in the beginning of the season? Because as well as some guys have, and again, Rasmussen's done well, Boz has kind of slipped off after a really strong start. Overall, when you look at this, let's just stay at the starting rotation. What has not been working as well as we've seen in years past?
Yeah, it's interesting when you look at them as a whole, because all their stuff analytically kind of plays like it did last year, right? And the velocities and the breaks of all their breaking balls, the changeups, the spins, the axis, everything looks pretty similar. compared to last year when you're talking about the overall starting rotation. But the one thing that they're kind of missing right now, or at least they don't have as much of compared to 12 months ago, is the swing and miss.
Right.
The strikeout numbers are way down compared to the starts first month and a half, 2 months of the season last year, and that's why it's kind of a mystery, because all the stuff again is there, right? Taj Bradley his strikeouts are down. I know the split finger for him isn't getting enough specifically, so maybe he's more of specifically one pitch, but some of the other guys, Shane Baz here recently hasn't gotten as much of the swing and miss. And so, when you're not getting as much swing and miss, that means you're relying on light contact or weak contact, and you got to be a little bit more exact. And maybe that's creeping into what some of these outings are showing. I do think that every one of these guys has had good outings, and they've also had some outings where you look at it and say, well, that wasn't their A game, right? They didn't have their stuff. And so the good thing is Kyle Snyder's working with them all. And again, I think I've probably said this on your show before, this guy's the best pitching coach in the league, man. There's no one more dialed in than Kyle Snyder, because he relates on both levels. He relates to these guys as individuals, as people, and not just a number or a pitcher on the mound. He relates to them personally, which gets their trust. But then he also understands how to dial in and utilize all the numbers in his favor and not overwhelm the player. And it's probably one of the hardest things to do now as a coach, because there's so much information out there. You got to dissect what's important, what's not important. Then you have to basically relay that message to the pitcher without overwhelming him or confusing him. Kyle's the best at it. And so I think he's going to right the ship with the starting rotation. Again, I don't think they're terrible by any means. I think they're just middle of the pack. And going into the season, we know what the ceiling is for this rotation, and we expect them to be maybe a top 5, top 7 rotation in the league, and they still have that potential. But I see Kyle Snyder making some adjustments and trying to get them there.
What have you seen from a guy like Junior Caminero? I thought it was, people were worried about, putting too much on his plate because he's such a young kid. And I said, well, whether we're worried about it or not, that's inconsequential. This is a guy that tore it up in the offseason and doing what he did down there in winter ball. And, regardless of what his age is, he's going to bat third and probably play third a good chunk of the start of the season. He was not playing today, mired in a 1-for-17 slump. Is the swing a little long? Is pitch selection? Obviously he's not probably getting the ball in the air as much as he'd like, but when you look at Junior Caminero, why has it been a little bit more of a kind of a stop and go rather than kind of a consistency, other than the fact that he's just a young kid?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you've nailed it right there. I think he did have a lot of pressure coming in as a 21-year-old in an offense where they're basically saying, hey, you have to be a guy. That's very, very hard to do. Even the most elite guys struggle at 21 years old. Just think back where you were at 21, right? So yeah, the talent is absolutely there. We've seen it flash. To be able to bring it out consistently, I think he's still working on that. Offensively at home, his numbers are outstanding. He's gotten really good home numbers. He's hitting well. On the road, it's been a little bit of a struggle. And look, for Junior, I think it is mechanical a little bit. I think he does get a little long at times, and that happens when you have a power hitter coming up through the minor league system who is the number one prospect in baseball, and he can turn on anybody, right? He had no problem hitting anybody in the minor leagues, anybody in the Dominican League. We saw that in winter ball numbers. And by the way, there's a lot of major leaguers in that league.
Oh, yeah.
And we've seen it at times at the major league level, but you got to also understand there's going to be inconsistencies with a kid this young. And I think that's just where we're seeing it. He's just not as consistent as we've seen him, or we will see him over the years. To me, a really good comp for him is Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And we all know the hit tool that Junior has. And I think that, Caminero shows that as well. I think he could be right up there with him. But it's the consistency where he's not coming out and being able to knock out 2+ hits a night or 1 to 3 hits a night, maybe. And that's where I'd like to see an improvement, is just that consistent factor, and it will come just on the, knowledge that he is just going through a lot of these things at the first time. He's still going through some of the fields. So he's seeing some of these
Yeah.
pitchers for the first time. Just
Mhm.
think about the fact that, he's still so young. So once he starts seeing these guys repetitively, once he starts going to these stadiums, knowing what to expect, what to anticipate, think about how much better he's going to be.
Yeah, it's a great point. You just brought up the Dominican League. Where is, outside of the minor leagues, major leagues, did you ever play winter ball somewhere down in the islands? Did you ever play, like Cape Cod or anything like that? Where's give me a league outside of the normal major and minors that you plied your trade at.
Sure, I played in Puerto Rico for 2 separate off seasons. I played for the
Nice.
Mayaguez Indios, and I absolutely loved it, man. For 2 reasons. First of all, the first time I went down there was after I missed some time on the IL with the Rays, and I needed to get some more innings and just more experience in general, and needed to work on some things, my mechanics and some other things. And going down there was a perfect environment to do it. Got removed from all the distractions, and all I could focus on is really baseball, right? And so going to the park, working as hard as I could against some really good competition, it really helped me out. And that was I would say I was like 23, 24 when I went the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent experience. And then I went back after my last shoulder surgery to rehab my arm and show everybody that I was healthy, and went back to the same place, the Mayaguez Indios, and was able to play for them, played, the entire offseason there, and had the same experience, except that time I was a reliever and I got to be the closer for them. And so,
Nice.
I enjoyed it. It's a different culture. I would always recommend, and I do recommend to any young player coming up through the minor leagues and into the big leagues, if they get a chance to play winter ball, 100% do it. You have to go for maybe a couple of reasons. I would think, first of all, for the talent and the experience. It's excellent experience. It'll help you grow, and it'll help you get that much better in your career. Secondly, I think it's important to just kind of show what some of the other guys who are coming from these islands are experiencing when they come to the States and play, right? They're out of their own element. They're away from home. They have to figure out how to deal with being away from where they grew up. And, at times you feel a little bit on your own, and all those things that you experience. I think it's really good for the growing process and for the understanding of what your teammates go through. And I think it can only help and benefit you as a teammate and as a player. So that's why I love winter ball in general, and not to mention the passion of the fans is off the charts, man. You saw the home run trot from Junior Caminero. It took him an hour and a half to get around the bases, and he high-fived the mascot on his way to first. And he was still going home, and everybody was still in the stands jumping up and down and loving it. So that's just the passion that they bring, and it's a lot of fun to see.
Doug, speaking of adjustments, what do you think has been the most difficult adjustment for these hitters playing at Steinbrenner Field? Because, and unfortunately, we just heard that Isaac Paredes hit a 2-run home run in the first. It's 2-0. Paredes really taking it to his former team out of Isaac, man. It's pretty wild.
Yeah.
But what have you noticed? What have you heard as far as some of the, because it's tough because that they're playing in a new ballpark. Are they overthinking it a little bit? Are they trying to do too much? What has been some of the inconsistency or the cause, you think, some of these inconsistencies offensively with this team?
Yeah, it's hard to say to generalize what the inconsistencies and the lack of offense. It's hard to say because I think everybody's a little bit different, right? You got certain guys who are struggling more so at home than others. The one thing you can say is that the numbers just don't reflect what we thought was going to happen playing the Steinbrenner Field. The big hit continues to elude them, in my opinion. Every night you're seeing a 1 for 8, 1 for 10 in runners in scoring position, and that really, really hurts. Because it means that you're creating traffic, but you're not getting the runners across the board, and you have to have that, especially when
somebody else called. You almost saw it in his face. Oh, wait. You're back? Oh, we got you back. There we go.
You talk about what could be the issue and could it be getting to them mentally? I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to say mentally that they aren't the same focus as they would be on the road. But what I will say, and I haven't heard this from any of the players I've just talked about, I would basically experience playing in a league facility. There's a feeling that when you go into this facility,
All right, hold on.
Okay, no, I know it looks like a spring training, it looks like a spring training facility, but these games still matter. These games matter now. And I think the fact that they weren't able to transition from spring training into a new facility, I don't know if it has anything to do with it or not. But for me, it would be tough. It would be tough as a pitcher
Right.
to go in there and try to make that work. But look, they're not going to give you any excuses. They're going to go out there and they're going to tell you that, hey, they need to get better. They got to get better, specifically at home. And, they're working on finding ways to do that.
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, hopefully they're able to figure it out, and they got a bunch of road games coming up too. Who are there any players? Who are you looking at, Doug? Before I let you go, any pitchers or hitters that they look like they're getting closer to kind of snapping out of this thing?
The bullpen's starting to look sharp. That's a huge key for these guys. Kevin Kelly, I think, is going to be coming back at some point. The bullpen has to be good for this team to win. And, I think the bullpen is throwing better in general. There was a little bit of a hiccup there in the middle of the first part of the season. I think now we're starting to look a little bit better and more locked in. The other guys that I'm seeing, Yandy Diaz is hitting the ball a lot better than he was the first month of the season. It was a slow start last year for Yandy. Now, Yandy is one of those guys that we have to have rolling. Like, his offense won't score and won't be where you want him to be late in the year if Yandy Diaz isn't putting up numbers. So it's good to see him starting to get more consistent. Brandon Lau is a guy that I would love to see go out there and break out of it. He had that monster game, I believe it was back in Toronto. Where he had a couple home runs, and I was thinking, okay, man, once this guy gets streaking hot, he's one of the best offensive hitters as a second baseman in the game. But he is a streaky hitter, and so hopefully he'll be breaking out of it and start streaking, really hot in the right direction. Because if his bat's going, Yandy's bat's going, and you got Josh Lowe hitting, this lineup's totally different. This lineup can put up big numbers. And, I hope it happens soon because it's very hard to win games when you're scoring, 1 to 3 runs a night.
Doug, before I let you go, let everybody know as far as what you got going on at work, your other job.
My other full-time job, working at Colliers as an office broker. We go out and we specialize in finding tenants office space that if your business is looking anywhere really in the Tampa Bay area, our brand is national. We can help find businesses, locations anywhere in the nation, but we specialize, of course, in the Tampa Bay area. St. Pete, Clearwater, Tampa. If your business is looking for office or commercial real estate in general, reach out to me. You can find me on social media is an easy way to find me. You can also find me through an email, doug.waechter@colliers, COLLIERS.com.
There you go. The one and only Doug Waechter. Doug, I appreciate it. Give my love to the family. Enjoy the rest of the game today, and we'll talk to you soon, partner. Thank you.
You're the best, Jake. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, man. You got it, pal.